democracy as well as sustainability. We as leaders in the global south and our people must be seen as equal partners in development. What's out? Using money to prescribe what development means to us. Money and humanitarian aid are simply a catalyst for development. Now, to pass the mic over to someone who is directing global peace and is not afraid to speak out for what's right. Dylan, over to you.
Hi, I'm Dylan, and let me tell you what's in for 2026. It's meaningful investment in peace-building efforts around the world. There's no time to waste. Invest now. And what's out? Well, it's excuses. Excuses not to fund local leaders, local organisations and local communities because they are the real heroes of international development. Now, over to Charles Kojo van Dijk, a good friend of mine, a fellow troublemaker and someone with the best podcast in town. Charles, over to you.
Hi, my name is Charles Kojo van Dijk. I'm a podcaster, an author, and a development practitioner. I am at the Global Partnerships Conference 2026. My aim for development in 2026 is locally rooted leadership and sustainable community-driven solutions. My out is top-down approaches that exclude the voices and realities of local communities. But none of this actually works if it does not lead to action. So let me pass on this mic to the other room.
So our final speaker today has been a consistent and outspoken champion, both as Foreign Secretary and in his current role, of exactly what this afternoon has been about: shifting power to countries and communities so that they can lead their own development. To close our two Shifting the Power plenaries, please welcome the Deputy Prime Minister, the Right Honourable David Lammy.
Well, first, let me thank the fantastic panelists that we've just heard speak so powerfully over the past few hours on this important issue, shifting the power. Whether on the border of Sudan as Foreign Secretary, visiting Sri Lanka as Deputy Prime Minister, or welcoming Global South leaders to the UK from across the world, what's clear is that the 1997 style approach to international development no longer works. Global South partners feel the overlapping crises that we're seeing across the world, the shocks and the creaking of the system. The hardest, of course, we are living through essentially a great remaking. In a changing international order, many powers are shaping this, the multipolar age. And so our status quo is clearly not fit for purpose. We're changing our approach, moving from the paternalism of the past to the partnerships of the future, and championing the reforms required across the system, making it fairer, more impactful, and unblocking the finance needed to turbocharge development and climate action. It's fantastic to see that under my dear colleague, Yvette Cooper, and the wonderful Baroness Chapman, this work has only grown in importance. And frankly, looking at us all here today is a testament to that. But as we've just heard, there is more, much more, we must do together. As an international community, too often we failed in our primary task to work in genuine partnership, not focused on handouts, but on shared growth. We know that when those most greatly affected shape the solutions, decisions carrying greater legitimacy, outcomes endure, and our collective impact is stronger. As the Foreign Secretary outlined earlier, we have a responsibility to make this right, but also an interest in doing so. As Deputy Prime Minister, I know all too well that growth, tackling the climate crisis, and the health of our citizens cannot be separated from international shocks and crises. Because as we've seen all too clearly in recent years, instabilities and crisis across the world have a direct impact on us here at home. From the effects of COVID-19, which continue, of course, to reverberate, to the floods and the extreme weather and damage our towns and cities, all of it costing billions of pounds, to the impacts of global economic shocks on the cost of living. If we are to shift course, we must see a genuine shift in approach and a genuine shift in power. We've heard loud and clear over these two plenary sessions a rallying cry for a central organising principle, that countries and communities' own aspirations, plans and priorities must be at the heart of development cooperation. And what are the three key things that we've heard that we can collectively do to turn this principle into practice? Well, first, we must work alongside partners as they set their own agendas, aligning our support and finance behind their aspirations for their own development. It means coordinating behind country platforms where the countries choose them to align support with national priorities. It means co-creating, co-designing, co-deciding solutions as best and standard practice where partners determine what, where and how development resources are used. And that's why the UK wholeheartedly endorses the call to action to all development actors to accelerate support for locally led development, and we encourage you to join us. Second, that we need to take a whole society approach, from government to the private sector to philanthropy to civil society, including the most marginalised voices, to support the changes that countries and communities want to see. This government has always believed in a feminist approach to international development and foreign policy, women and girls in all their diversity, and women's rights organisations as drivers of change and progress, essential to growth, peace and stability. That's why I commend the work of Yvette Cooper. With her leadership, the UK has made this a standalone foreign policy priority. And finally, to deliver this, we must support partners in building self-sufficiency and fiscal resilience. We need to redouble our efforts to ensure countries can mobilise their own finance, spend well, borrow responsibly and manage shocks effectively to build sustainable economies. Control over finances is control over sovereignty, and this means tackling illicit finance and corruption, which I see as one of the great progressive causes of our times. Illicit financial flows are estimated to total between $800 billion and $2 trillion every year. That's around 2 to 5% of global GDP. This is money that should be in the hands of citizens, ordinary people, supporting their public services. Instead, it lines the pockets of kleptocrats, their cronies, and funds their luxury homes in capitals like this one, here in London. Together, we must move beyond an agenda simply focused on transparency and end the era of impunity for those exploiting developing nations for their own ill-gotten gains. It also means mobilising more private capital, and the City of London is a hub of green finance, and we want to become a hub of global development finance too. So we're working with senior leaders from across the investment community to address practical barriers to scaling investment in developing countries, and this to me exemplifies a move towards building genuine new partnerships, new coalitions that deliver growth and opportunity for citizens here and abroad. But none of this will be enough if we don't also work together to change the global development system. You will have heard from many leaders and those championing reform initiatives over the course of today, and it's clear that there are already some key areas of momentum. First, that we must address the injustice at the heart of the system for ensuring a global South voice that's representative and has influence and a meaningful seat at the table. Again, Yvette Cooper set out earlier today how the UK is working in partnership to champion the shift across the system, whether that's ensuring greater voice across the debt architecture through the new borrowers platform, co-chairing the current World Bank shareholding review, reforming the United Nations Security Council to include permanent representation for the continent of Africa, for India, for Germany, Brazil, and Japan, or ensuring the OECD debt reform review keeps pace with the scale of the changes to the development partnership and finance landscape. We are proud, then, to play our part. Second, it's clear that institutions and actors must work better as a system to get behind the aspirations of countries and communities. Working together should be the starting point, systemic and not ad hoc. That means going further and faster on essential reforms to support genuine collaboration between development banks, climate funds, and other institutions, bringing together finance, expertise, and implementation at scale. And third, we must prioritise and protect the parts of the system that protect us. There is no development without climate action, and no climate action without development. These are two sides of the same coin. At all levels of government, the United Kingdom remains relentlessly focused on addressing the defining global challenge. The transition to a resilient, nature-positive, clean-powered global economy is the growth opportunity of the 21st century. We will not succeed in tackling the climate and nature crisis or deliver resilient, sustainable growth without reforming the full development and climate ecosystem. We need a climate and nature finance architecture that works faster, smarter, and more effectively. And we need to mobilise more finance from all sources whilst delivering a step change in access to ensure funding reaches the poorest and the most vulnerable. And we need to ensure that funding reaches communities on the ground and that marginalised groups are at the centre of decision-making. This is proven to deliver stronger, more effective resilience. It needs to be the core in shifting the power. And that's why we've always supported the vision of least development countries to get more finance and decision-making power flowing to locally led climate action and to communities on the front line. Finally, that we must look ahead to the system we need for the future and define that future together. We as politicians, as leaders, must take greater responsibility to set out a common vision, to re-inspire hope that we can tackle the collective challenges that we face for the betterment of my citizens and of yours. And as we've heard today, there is much more to do on this agenda to deliver that paradigm shift. But we are committed as partners, as reformers, to stay the course. And what do we know? We know that relationships grounded in old hierarchies no longer work, and instead we need to base our relationships on mutual respect as equals. So how do we get there? We know there's more to do, but when I look around this room, I see people, governments and organisations that are committed to do the work to realise our ambitions. We're not all the same, of course. We don't agree on everything, but together we can build new coalitions which give us a seat at the table, all of us. And we must take the discussions of this week and turn them into concrete actions. It's about restoring confidence that cooperation can deliver, and this is what shifting the power means in practice: more trust, more legitimacy, more impact. I'm so pleased that this global partnership and this gathering has come together and that you're all here today. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, as I listened to the conversations today, I kept thinking back to A.N. Aiden's poem. She spoke of the fragility of the now and choose humanity. We all have a shared conviction that something has to change. And as Yolanda so passionately said, it's time to take action. We all want change, but are you going to change? The conversations in this room today were excellent. They were candid and they were real. Now the work is to make sure they don't stay in this room, just as the Deputy Prime Minister said, and that they become real action. Tomorrow we'll go deeper. We will turn to finance, how to mobilize it at the scale the world needs, to technology and AI, and what it means to build those capabilities locally, not just import them, to humanitarian action, and the question of how we protect people in crisis while sharing power with them. So please do be back in this room, ready to go at 9:15 tomorrow morning. But for now, the formal program for today is over. However, before you leave, just two very quick things. If you haven't signed the compact, the official copy is in the workers' bar outside. And then the second thing is that we have a complimentary boat departing here at 6:30 from the Woolwich Works Pier, and it will stop at Royal Wharf, Greenwich Pier and Canary Wharf. Please do collect a ticket from the